Have you ever felt so stressed out that you just can't think straight? It's a common feeling, but have you ever wondered what's actually happening inside your brain during those moments? We often talk about stress in terms of how it makes us feel emotionally, but the physical impact on our brain is profound and fascinating. Today, we're going to dive deep into the neuroscience of stress, exploring how our brains are wired to handle it, what happens when it becomes chronic, and most importantly, what we can do to protect our most vital organ. So, let's start with the basics. What is stress? In short, it's your body's response to any kind of demand or threat. When you perceive a threat, whether it's a looming deadline at work or, historically, a predator in the wild, your brain initiates a chain reaction known as the fight or flight response. This is a survival mechanism that's been honed over millions of years of evolution. The command center for this response is a tiny, almond-shaped region in your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala acts like an alarm system. When it detects a potential threat, it sends a distress signal to another part of the brain, the hypothalamus. Think of the hypothalamus as the bridge between your nervous system and your endocrine system, which is responsible for your hormones. It's the coordinator of the whole operation. Once the hypothalamus gets the signal from the amygdala, it activates two key systems. First, it triggers the sympathetic nervous system, which is like pressing the gas pedal on your body. This causes your adrenal glands to release adrenaline. You know that sudden rush you feel. The pounding heart, the quickened breath, the surge of energy, that's adrenaline. It's preparing your body to either fight the threat or run away from it. Simultaneously, the hypothalamus initiates a slower, more sustained response called the HPA axis, which stands for the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. This is a hormonal cascade. The hypothalamus releases a hormone that tells the pituitary gland to release another hormone, which then travels down to the adrenal glands and tells them to release cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, and its job is to keep you on high alert. It floods your body with glucose, providing an immediate energy source to your large muscles. It also curbs functions that would be non-essential in a fight or flight situation, like your digestive system, your reproductive system, and even your immune system. In the short term, this entire system is brilliant. It can save your life. It helps you react quickly, think faster, and perform physical feats you might not normally be able to. The problem arises when this alarm system doesn't shut off. In our modern world, stresses aren't usually life or death situations that are over in a few minutes. Instead, we face persistent, long-term stresses, financial worries, relationship problems, or high-pressure jobs. When these stresses are constant, the HPA axis keeps firing, leading to a state of chronic stress, and this is where the real damage to the brain begins. One of the most significant impacts of chronic stress is on memory and learning. The brain regions most vulnerable to the effects of long-term elevated cortisol are the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. The prefrontal cortex is your brain's CEO. It's responsible for executive functions like decision-making, problem-solving, and regulating your behavior. The hippocampus is crucial for the formation of new memories and for learning. When you're constantly bathed in cortisol, it can actually cause these critical brain areas to shrink. Studies have shown that chronic stress can reduce the number of new neurons being created in the hippocampus, a process called neurogenesis. It can also weaken the connections, or synapses, between neurons. This makes it harder to learn new things and to retrieve old memories. It's why you might find yourself being more forgetful, having trouble concentrating, or struggling to make decisions when you're under a lot of pressure. The communication network in your brain literally becomes less efficient. But it's not just our cognitive abilities that suffer. Chronic stress has a powerful effect on our mood and emotional well-being. There's a strong, well-documented link between chronic stress and an increased risk for mood disorders like depression and anxiety. Remember the amygdala, our brain's alarm system. When we're chronically stressed, the amygdala can become overactive and grow in size. This makes us more sensitive to perceived threats, trapping us in a cycle of fear and anxiety. We start seeing danger everywhere, even when there isn't any. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, which is supposed to help regulate the amygdala's response, is being weakened by cortisol. So, You have a hyperactive alarm system and a weakened control center that is supposed to calm it down. This imbalance is a classic hallmark of anxiety disorders. Furthermore, chronic stress can disrupt the balance of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which are key players in regulating mood. When these chemical messengers are out of whack, it can lead to the persistent low mood, loss of pleasure, and feelings of hopelessness that characterize depression. It's a vicious cycle where stress triggers brain changes that make us more susceptible to stress. So, this all sounds pretty serious, and it is. But here is the good news. Your brain is incredibly resilient. It has a remarkable ability to change and heal, a quality known as neuroplasticity. We are not powerless against the effects of stress. We can actively take steps to manage our stress levels and promote brain health. One of the most powerful tools we have is mindfulness and meditation. When you practice mindfulness, you're essentially training your prefrontal cortex to be a better manager. You're learning to observe your thoughts and feelings without getting carried away by them. This strengthens the prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate the amygdala, calming down that overactive alarm system. Research has shown that regular meditation can actually decrease the size of the amygdala and increase the density of grey matter in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus. You are literally rewiring your brain to be less reactive to stress. Another incredibly effective stress buster is physical exercise. When you exercise, your body releases endorphins, which are natural mood elevators and painkillers, but the benefits go deeper. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain and stimulates the release of a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF is like fertilizer for your brain cells. It promotes the growth of new neurons, particularly in the hippocampus, and strengthens the connections between them, so a regular run, a brisk walk, or a dance class is not just good for your body. It is one of the best things you can do to counter the damaging effects of cortisol and boost your memory and cognitive function. Social connection is another crucial factor. Spending time with loved ones and having a strong support system helps buffer the effects of stress. Positive social interactions can trigger the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the cuddle hormone, which has a calming effect and can lower cortisol levels. Building and maintaining strong social bonds is a fundamental human need and a powerful antidote to stress. Finally, ensuring you get enough quality sleep is non-negotiable for brain health. Sleep is when your brain does its housekeeping. It consolidates memories, clears out metabolic waste products that build up during the day, and resets its emotional circuits. Chronic stress often disrupts sleep, but making sleep a priority is one of the most effective ways to break that cycle and allow your brain to recover and repair itself. In conclusion, stress isn't just a feeling. It's a powerful physiological process that can reshape your brain. While the fight or flight response is a vital survival tool, chronic activation of this system can shrink areas responsible for memory and decision-making while enlarging the brain's fear center, leaving us vulnerable to anxiety and depression. But the story doesn't end there. Our brains are dynamic and capable of change. By actively engaging in stress management strategies like mindfulness, exercise, social connection, and good sleep, we can reverse these negative effects. We can strengthen our prefrontal cortex, calm our amygdala, and even grow new brain cells. We have the power to protect our brains and build resilience, turning the tide against the pressures of modern life. Thank you so much for joining me today to explore the fascinating world inside our heads. If you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into how our minds work. Stay curious, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.